Good morning, everybody. Good early afternoon on Saturday. This video is going to discuss the evolution of Hurricane Henri that is heading for the northeastern U.S. It did intensify up into hurricane strength. Hurricane Hunter aircraft continue to provide incredibly valuable recon data of this storm as the minimum pressure has dropped down to 991 millibars. An 82-knot flight level wind at 700 millibars was measured, which easily supports this intensity, and in fact could even be a little bit stronger than that. There you can see the official forecast track of the National Hurricane Center up in the upper left of the screen. A slight shift off to the east, but Henri is still expected to be very near hurricane strength. Landfall looks like Sunday night up there, possibly eastern Long Island, maybe a little bit closer to Rhode Island as well, given this slight eastern shift. And there is an upper level low over the central Appalachians right now. The squeeze play between that and the Bermuda High off to the east has carved out a little bit of a pocket of diffluence aloft, helping to ventilate this system and helping to facilitate that intensification as it lifts northward along the very warm waters of the Gulf Stream. And it actually looks like the hurricane is starting to get a little bit of an eye starting to form. This data, Hurricane Hunter data, and satellite has also shown that this system is becoming a lot more vertically aligned. And you can see that little minimum there in the visible satellite. Definitely starting to show that pocket of subsidence and a little bit of warming starting to form in the center of that system, being ventilated to the east of that upper level low. We're going to discuss the steering mechanisms here. There still is a little bit of model uncertainty with the evolution of the storm. We are starting to get a slight shift off to the east, and definitely conditions are favorable for further organization as this approaches the northeastern U.S. One limiting factor for this system as it approaches eastern Long Island and New England is this cold water that is located just offshore there. Basically, the orange coloring that you see is about 28 degrees Celsius or lower, and the temperature of the sea surface temperatures definitely drop below 25 degrees C right along this yellow line. This is the northern wall of the Gulf Stream, and it is expected to cross that on Sunday morning, and then it could begin a weakening trend. And really it depends, all of the hurricanes that make landfall across the northeastern U.S. are accelerating once they approach the northeastern U.S. So they're intensifying, organizing over this Gulf Stream, and then once they cross over the northern wall, if those hurricanes are moving fast enough, then they don't have time to realize that they're over that lower diabatic heating max over the Gulf Stream, and then they'll keep cruising into New England and intensify. You may remember Hurricane Bob back in the early 1990s came in there to New England. That was hauling and accelerating, getting picked up by an upper level trough. So one thing that is different with this storm is that it's not going to be accelerating or slingshotting up to landfall. So I do think that it is going to have time to weaken into a high-end tropical storm. Could be hurricane strength, though, and that's why these hurricane warnings are in effect all the way to the east, almost to Cape Cod there. And the strong onshore winds and dangerous storm surge are going to extend near and well to the east of that center, including much of Long Island. Long Island Sound as well is going to have a 3 to 5 foot surge. That's going to max out when those easterlies on the north side of the circulation pile up that water into Long Island Sound. Of course, Providence is going to have a big-time storm surge there, 3 to 5 feet. Cape Cod is going to have a big storm surge of about 3 to 5 feet as well. But definitely this slug of cooler waters could help to keep Hurricane Henri a little bit below hurricane strength as it approaches eastern Long Island here. And then the forecast models take it inland over southern New England, and that could lead to big-time flooding as well. There's a lot of mountainous terrain up here. Could get a debris plug ripping down the side of Mount Washington up there after that big-time rainfall happens. And speaking of big-time rainfall, to the west of Nashville, radar indicated double-digit rainfall totals out there. And definitely have been a major swiftwater rescues happening, even some casualties, very sadly, with this flooding event to the west of Nashville. We'll take a look at that as well. Those rivers continue to rise. Floodwaters invading homes out there as well. So big problems to the west of Nashville there. And there is some higher terrain, some hilly terrain out there just to the west, helping to contribute to the severity of those flash floods. But we are in flash flood season. It's that time of year to keep an eye out. So these are the hurricane intensity models. These are the new models here at 12Z. The official intensity, take it up to 85 miles an hour by tomorrow morning. That's when it maxes out, and then it's going to start heading back down toward Category 1 hurricane strength there by landfall. But the official intensity forecast from the National Hurricane Center is above the statistical models here, the SHIP model as well, other intensity models. They basically keep that as a strong tropical storm, but it's already a hurricane. So those models have already been underdoing the intensity of this system. A lot of times when you get kind of an upper level trough creating a pocket of diffluence off to the east, then a lot of times these hurricane intensity models don't do as good of a job at depicting the intensity of this storm. And that's why the expert meteorologists there at NHC are recognizing this, and they take this system a lot stronger. The global models, though, the GFS, the HWRF also does intensify this system by another 15 millibars. A 15 millibar pressure drop in Hurricane Hunter aircraft have already indicated a 991 millibar minimum pressure with this storm system. Here is the 0Z last night GFS ensemble, and the 12Z GFS is coming in right now. So I am pretty excited to take a look at that and see what changes we do have, see if there's going to be a continued trend back to the east, kind of that windshield wiper effect. But you can see a couple of these members to the west still take that system wrapping around a stronger upper level low located to the west of it over the central Appalachians. And then there's also a high pressure off to the east out there. That's the Bermuda high that is intensifying as well. So this system is heading off to the north, basically the squeeze play between that upper level low over the central Appalachians and the Bermuda high off to the east. And depending on how strong the relative strength of this upper level cutoff low is over the central Appalachians, it could act to bend Henri back toward the New York City area, back toward Long Island as well. And there is going to be a slight bend to the left, but the forecast models since last night have been trending to a little bit less dramatic of a bend off to the northwest, and we're starting to get an emergence of more of these members off to the east there as well. But definitely a strong tropical cyclone all the way up to the northern wall there of the Gulf Stream, and then it should begin some gradual weakening on approach. But the GFS and the HWRF maintain Category 1 hurricane intensity all the way up until landfall, very close to eastern Long Island, Providence, Rhode Island area there. Could easily see a hurricane landfall. I think that's the first one since Hurricane Bob, too, that's happened across the northeast. So the GFS is definitely one of the more aggressive models with the intensity. The hurricane models, a little bit less, showing more of a tropical storm. But you really don't need to focus so much on whether it's going to be a hurricane or a tropical storm because the impacts are still going to be potentially life-threatening out there. A mass power outage event across southern New England as well. Looks like Connecticut, Rhode Island, eastern Massachusetts, Long Island are going to see the worst of those power outages. And there's definitely a chance of some flooding there, especially across the mountainous terrain of southern New England. Looking at the GEPS ensembles here, you can see it's a little bit further east, a little weaker of a system than the GFS was showing, and the HWRF, and the weaker the system, the further east. So the stronger system is going to be a little bit further west with the GFS being indicated and the HWRF. But definitely last night's GEPS shows a much less dramatic of a bend off to the west with that system having a weaker upper level closed low over the central Appalachians. And really the relative strength between that cutoff low over the central Appalachians and the Bermuda high off to the east is what's going to determine how dramatic that left-hand bend into Long Island is going to be. We remember Superstorm Sandy back in 2012 had a very dramatic turn off to the west, coming in with a slingshot motion into New Jersey there. This is different. This is earlier in the late summer. It's not extending well into the late fall. Late fall, you get much stronger troughs, stronger cutoff systems, a lot more kinematics here to work with, and that caused Sandy to slingshot into the shoreline and brought in that devastating storm surge across eastern New Jersey. This one isn't going to slingshot as much, and in fact the models are even trending toward a little bit less of a slingshot, but it does look like the GEPS is showing some deepening of about 5 millibars here by tomorrow morning. The GFS is more aggressive with that deepening, and we do have the 12Z models that are coming in here as well. But first I want to show you The hurricane models here showing a little bit more spread than we had in recent days, showing a couple members even curving it further east towards southeastern Massachusetts, but the 12Z models still show that clustering, that bend off to the northwest toward eastern Long Island, toward the coastline of Connecticut, toward Rhode Island as well. That would be a really bad scenario there. And the system stalls and then takes a hard right turn right over the mountains there, near Hunter Mountain, New York. Some of those members near central Vermont as well, central New Hampshire, and that would be a pretty brutal situation for inland flash flooding additionally. So let's take a look at the storm surge product here, the experimental product by the National Hurricane Center, showing this 3 to 5 foot surge into Long Island Sound, eastern side of Long Island as well a 3 to 5 foot surge, Buzzards Bay there additionally, 3 to 5 foot surge, Nantucket Sound. Those easterlies will be piling up that water as well, and even a decent surge of 1 to 3 feet expected here over eastern Massachusetts. And if we do see an eastward shift in that track continuing, then those storm surge numbers are definitely going to ramp up across eastern Massachusetts as well there. So this is going to be a very impactful storm for the Northeast. Hurricane Grace made landfall along the Emerald Coast of Mexico as a major hurricane, the first major hurricane landfall of this season. We are early in the season as well, and now it's over the mountains there of central Mexico, causing major problems with flash flooding, debris flows out there, landslides as well, mudslides causing major problems. But it did come in with 120 mile an hour max sustained winds in the Emerald Coast there. Definitely organized right at the last second. And this Bay of Campeche definitely favors organization because of the unique shape of the coastline as well. I saw Eric Webb post about this morning. That causes some westerlies there along the southern periphery of the Bay of Campeche and can help to spin up tropical waves and tropical storms as they move east-south, west-southwest into that environment. Definitely can enhance that vorticity and the organization. And you had one of those vortical towers wrap around the eastern side of the cyclone just as it was approaching, making landfall, and the sinking motion right at the leading edge of that vortical tower carved out that eye, and it had a pretty nice eye as it came in. I know Josh Morgerman was out there, eye cyclone. I was watching that system. He was down there for landfall a little bit inland from the coast as well. So I'm looking forward to seeing video and updates and the data from him as well. But there you can see that system sliding off to the north. This is the 12Z GFS initializing this system quite well there. A little bit stronger than it is, at least according to the Hurricane Hunter data, measuring that 991 millibar low. So it does look like the GFS is a little bit aggressive with that intensity. And there you can see that Bermuda high off to the east, cutoff low here over the central Appalachians as well. Definitely help contribute to that flash flooding event to the west of Nashville. And we'll break down some of that radar data of that event as well. But here is the latest GFS showing continued deepening, 8 to 10 millibars here by tomorrow morning. This is by Sunday morning here. This is going to be the peak intensity just as it's starting to cross that northern wall of the Gulf Stream, as we saw in the sea surface temperature data. And really the relative strength of this upper level low over the central Appalachians is going to be crucial to determine the magnitude of that northwest turn. And the GFS is one of the more aggressive models with the intensity here, showing that continued ventilation of the system aloft by that upper level low over the central Appalachians, strengthening Bermuda high off to the east. And really the relative strength between these two steering mechanisms is going to determine how quickly this thing turns off to the northeast or how rapidly it bends off to the northwest toward Long Island. But it definitely does show this eastward shift, even with the stronger tropical cyclone, more vertically aligned tropical system that the GFS is showing. It is continuing that eastern trend. And then there is the bend to the northwest, kind of a delayed bend to the northwest, just off the eastern tip of Long Island there into New England. And there you can see that bend to the northwest, and then it sits over western Massachusetts there, southern Vermont, and then finally ejects off to the northeast. This is by Monday morning, or excuse me, this is Monday midday afternoon there. Still sitting over interior New England. This latest 12Z models are definitely showing a delayed ejection off to the east-northeast, and that's going to be a devastating scenario for inland New England here. The mountainous terrain, the infrastructure just isn't set up to handle these big-time rainfall events from these tropical systems. So I think the mountains there of central Vermont, central New Hampshire are absolutely going to get hammered by big time rain up there. And we'll break down how much rainfall is being shown there. And then look at this Bermuda High extending off to the west into the southeastern U.S. That will cause it to slide over top. Monster Bermuda High over the subtropical Atlantic. That's one thing that we've seen over these last couple of tropical seasons that have helped to ship these tropical cyclones into the Gulf of Mexico. Last year with that record-breaking hurricane season along the Gulf was definitely aided by that westward extension of the Bermuda High into the southeastern U.S. So now let's take a look at some of the rainfall here. Pivot on over to the Pivotal Weather website. New GFS. We'll utilize the new GFS here. Let's take a look and see what some of the total QPF is generating with the new model here. And interestingly, the GFS has a little bit less of the big rainfall up there into the mountains of Vermont, just a couple of inches up there. So that would be a good scenario, even with that delayed turn off to the northwest. Down a little bit closer to Hunter Mountain, though, and into the Berkshires there of western Mass. That's probably going to be the maximum in rainfall there, at least according to this new 12Z GFS there, showing several inches of rainfall, 6 to 8 inches of rainfall there, and that includes the inland hills here of Connecticut as well. Could be some major flash flooding there. Surprisingly, a little bit less rainfall being indicated by the new 12Z GFS here in eastern Massachusetts, but definitely a stripe of big rainfall coming in here over the eastern tip of Long Island, possibly as this hurricane conditions begin as early as late tonight, early Sunday morning. Could certainly get some hurricane conditions funneling into Long Island Sound there. I know storm chasers are funneling into the northeast here to show that storm surge happening in real time and to cover the evolution of these deteriorating conditions. But there you can see the rainfall by the GFS. Let's see what the 12Z NAM has. 12Z NAM, interestingly, really bends the system off to the northwest. And you want to be careful using the NAM output because they usually result in a much stronger tropical cyclone. They don't handle the interaction of the tropical cyclone with a very warm ocean surface very well, and so that's why the 3-kilometer NAM and the NAM actually showed a major hurricane forming over the warm waters of the Gulf Stream as those heat fluxes off of the warm sea surface temperatures of the Gulf Stream just got out of control there. But look what the NAM paints in southern New Jersey. Big time rainfall there, even over a foot happening, but we'll probably throw that out. But look what the wharf has. That's the 12Z. Definitely has a more dramatic turn off to the northwest, having New Jersey getting hammered. But I think that the global models here, the GFS is a great model to be using, showing that curve off to the northwest. Last night's European also continued to curve that system to the northwest, a little bit closer to New York City. But definitely the 12Z models are showing a bit further east. Even the GFS, or that strongest system, the more aggressive global model on the intensity of Henri on approach to eastern Long Island still has that slight eastern shift happening. And that happens a lot with the windshield wiper effect. As Bernie Rayno, we'll call it here, the models will kind of go back and forth, and eventually they'll hone in on that solution. But there still is quite a bit of uncertainty in the forecast track. But I think anywhere from eastern Long Island to Rhode Island seems likely, and that landfall is going to be coming in on late Sunday. But don't get so focused in on the exact position and timing of landfall because those really bad impacts are going to be happening throughout near the center and extending way off to the east of that center as well. And I definitely should be catching a flight up to New England, but I'm going to be chasing more of the higher end tropical cyclones this year, and I figure I'll work to diversify our coverage just a bit. And on Sunday, we've got this strong shortwave trough here up into Canada, trough axis extending down to the south, and it does look like an arc of supercell storms is going to form from southeastern South Dakota through eastern Nebraska there. This is the new GFS model. Look at the positioning of the low-level jet as well here across eastern Nebraska into southeastern South Dakota. Certainly could be a tornado threat out there. The Storm Prediction Center has a 2% tornado area, but I do expect that to be upgraded to 5% as well here across eastern Nebraska. There you can see in general the co-location there of that low-level shear and instability. And the NAM, 12Z NAM, which is a much better model for severe weather here across the Central Plains, definitely shows robust instability building in through eastern and central Nebraska. Initiation very close to the Hastings area there of supercell storms. And so I might very easily could head out to the Hastings area tomorrow, chase that severe weather threat. 3-kilometer NAM fire storms out near the western edge of that instability axis. See where the storm relative low-level wind shear is maximized. But this is definitely a negative factor for this severe weather setup, as the low-level shear is pushed off to eastern Nebraska, and the storms develop here in south-central Nebraska, a little bit west of that low-level shear max. So that does look like a negative factor for tornado potential, but definitely a pretty big severe weather day with a lot of kinematics, a lot of deep layer bulk shear. 3-kilometer NAM is definitely hinting at a rogue supercell developing there, south-central Nebraska, near the Hastings area. Let's see what the HRRR says just for fun. HRRR is also pretty consistent, but it does develop that lead supercell a little bit closer to the low-level shear. But definitely the models are hinting at the convection being west a bit of that low-level shear axis. Not an incredible low-level jet here with this system. It's kind of a shearing out wave, but you still do get some acceleration of that low-level jet near and just after sunset, hinting at this south-central Nebraska target being quite interesting for a tornado threat. But I figure I'll do these live updates as Henri approaches New England into the Northeast. There's so many storm chasers out there that there will be plenty of storm surge video, plenty of wind out there. It's basically going to be 75, 80 mile an hour winds, big storm surge of about 3 to 5 feet, a lot of horizontal rain out there as well, some inland flooding, which doesn't seem to be as much of a problem with this system as a tropical cyclone Fred, which jumped historic rainfall there over the mountains of western North Carolina. Still, 20 people are missing out there, mass casualty event with tropical depression Fred over western North Carolina. So let me pull up the Radar Omega app and let's take a look a little bit more at Henri. And I want to look at some of that precipitation that fell to the west of the Nashville area. Again, thank you guys for joining me for this weather briefing. There is some hint that toward the end of August into very early September that the Gulf of Mexico could come alive as well, even in a much bigger sense, as we've seen. So I do think that there's going to be the opportunity to chase a tropical system coming up here. And I do plan to go big on these tropical systems. I'm just going to let all the storm chasers have cover Henri for this one. I'm going to be slinging live weather briefings. I was thinking about catching a flight up into that region. And here are these flash flood warnings in Tennessee that continue. A flash flood emergency right there. That includes the Dixon area off to the west of Nashville. And here are some of those precipitation totals here. The purple indicating 20-inch rainfall totals. So this is a big-time flash flood emergency. The heaviest totals here just to the east of the Waverly area, close to Dixon. But McEwen, Gorman areas, Tennessee City, Water Valley, showing those purples, pushing 20-inch totals here across this area. Gorman, McEwen, flash flood emergency out there. Water rescues continue. River flooding continuing to be big problems here. 10:28 a.m. Central Time. Heavy rain continues. 7 to 12 inches of rain have fallen. Flash flood emergency for Houston, Humphreys, Hickman, and Dixon counties. PDS situation, life-threatening flash flooding happening. Get to higher ground out there if you can. I know that if you can't, then you just got to stay on the roof and wait for those rescue workers to come. Getting to the attic isn't always a good idea in case you can get trapped up there if the water is able to rise that high up there. But here is the flash flood emergency. That dashed line is outlining that massive area of flooding, pushing 20 inches of rain out there. So this is a major precipitation event out here. That heaviest rainfall happening between Dixon and the Waverly areas there in purple. The Radar Omega app does a great job at finding the hydrometeorology here and finding exactly where those floods are going to be located. See if the rainfall continues out there. We can look at. And the good news is that at least the rainfall has subsided across this area so far, but the damage has been done. The flow is happening. The rain has already fallen. Very damaging flooding event happening. It looks like this is a little bit old as well. No, that's correct. 1713. So that heavy rain continues off to the south, close to the Tennessee-Alabama border there. Now we can take a look a little bit more at Henri. Hurricane Henri, upgraded based on that valuable hurricane reconnaissance data that continues to come in. And there is the system. Definitely has a much more developed inner core here. You can even see a large eye starting to form on visible satellite. It is pulling a little bit of dry air into the circulation. It is over very warm Gulf Stream waters. Still is experiencing a bit of northerly wind shear, which does take the deepest convection off to the southeast of the system. But this is a freak storm out here. It is a vertically aligned tropical system feeding off of the diffluence aloft created by that upper level low to the west of this system. And look at the inner core organized. It does look like it is taking a little bit of a push off to the east, which with those models starting to shift off to the east, that is definitely consistent with that steering mechanism. You can see some of these complexes of storms here forming to the east of that upper level low with that tropical moisture getting injected in. You can see some of the steering flow of these higher cloud tops there more off to the due north, even a little bit to the north-northwest, hinting at that turn happening eventually. And you can definitely almost see in the satellite here this pocket of diffluence aloft downstream from that upper level low and to the east of that Bermuda and to the west of the strengthening Bermuda high. And you can see some convective towers here also forming on the east side of the circulation with this more organized inner core. And this inner core of this tropical cyclone located right there, definitely vertically aligned. It's over the very warm waters of the Gulf Stream, but you can definitely see it is moving off to the north-northeast, which could be part of the reason for that eastward shift and a less dramatic turn off to the northwest. And a lot of that is going to be due to the relative strength of the upper level low over the central Appalachians. The convection is not incredibly deep over that organized inner core. A lot of that big convection is located down here. You can even see some banding in the upper level outflow. Transverse banding off of that big convective blob. So definitely not a ton of deep convection located over that center, but it doesn't look like there's a ton of dry air getting entrained into the circulation either. Looks like a lot of the infrared data not available this morning here. And there you can see the hurricane warnings in pink up there. New York City is in a tropical storm warning right now, so still expecting those big winds here, east-northeasterly, to funnel up Long Island Sound. Could certainly ramp up those winds in the New York City area as well. Storm surge warning in effect all the way along the periphery of Long Island Sound there as well. Storm surge warning includes Cape Cod as well. It does not include the Boston area. Not expecting as substantial of a storm surge. Hurricane warning here in pink as this storm is expected to maintain near hurricane strength on approach. So let's now look at the steering mechanisms here. Let me go back here to the tropicaltidbits.com website. I still have it on here. I'll show you that upper level low. This is the new GFS, not showing as dramatic of a bend back to the northwest, but it still is showing that with that upper level low over the central Appalachians. I love the Tropical Tidbits website. Everything is geared toward tracking these tropical systems. So this is a 500 millibar geopotential height and mean sea level pressure. So it shows that cyclone here over the center. Shows a vertically aligned tropical cyclone here as well, approaching southern New England, crossing the northern wall of the Gulf Stream by tomorrow morning. And here you can see the slightly lower geopotential height of this cutoff low centered over northern Virginia by tomorrow morning into southern PA. So the strength of this upper level low will determine the magnitude of the northwest turn, and if it could bring this system back in a little bit closer to central Long Island, the strength of this system and where it's located, and how rapidly the Bermuda High accelerates and intensifies off to the southeast of the system, kind of the relative evolution of the two steering mechanisms of this upper level low over the central Appalachians and that Bermuda High will determine the magnitude of curvature to the northwest and the rapid ejection to the east-northeast of this system. Definitely don't have an incredibly intense upper level low across the central Appalachians. I tend to think that this Bermuda High is going to strengthen a little bit, slide off to the south of this system, and lead to a further east track. I think this thing is coming into Long Island, most likely. Rhode Island up there. Maybe the eastern tip of Long Island could get into the western eye wall there. But I think that the worst of the storm shores is going to go right up into Providence there, right up that big bay. But the GFS is very aggressive with the intensification. Now that it does have that vertically aligned inner core, certainly is a possibility. So see how this upper level low weakens with time over the central Appalachians, showing a slightly less stubborn of an upper level low over the central Appalachians. That causes a much less of a turn off to the northwest. And even with that stronger system, the GFS takes it over the eastern tip of Long Island, right into central Connecticut. But this is just one model. You really need to look at the ensemble to determine the uncertainty there. And it weakens rapidly over the interior terrain, kind of meshing with that upper level low and then sliding over top that strong Bermuda High. So those are the steering currents with this system. Henri coming in. And right now, the GFS has it making landfall by Sunday afternoon, so even early afternoon there, showing a more rapid motion. And this more rapid motion by Sunday afternoon will cause Henri to be less aware of the cooler water temperatures back below it, just offshore there of Long Island, north of that northern wall of the Gulf Stream. So a faster Henri into eastern Long Island will increase the likelihood of a hurricane, a Category 1 hurricane, and that's what the GFS model, the improved GFS model, is showing. So I think I'm going to be chasing this severe weather threat across southern Nebraska and doing these live updates through tomorrow afternoon as this comes ashore. So thank you everybody for tuning in to my live weather update here with Henri. Oh wait, not even showing those models. You gotta be kidding me. So let me show you this again. I always seem to do this. A little bit scatterbrained. So let me do this again and show you these models. So there you can see the upper level low over the central Appalachians. That's a very important steering mechanism with this system. And watch how it weakens over the central Appalachians as well. Yesterday and a couple days before, the models were showing a more stubborn upper level low, showing a more pronounced turn to the northwest. Some of those models even showing a direct hit on the New York City area. The morning models are shifting a little bit east. more of a lower end, slightly weaker upper level low. But look at the GFS ramp this thing up. This is by 18Z, so right about now. Pretty accurate intensification this morning from a 994 low to the upper 980s, which is probably more realistic now at what that minimum pressure is. Hurricane Recon did measure 991 millibars a little bit earlier, but here you can see that upper level low spinning over the central Appalachians. And depending on how stubborn this upper level low is, that will determine the magnitude of that northwestern shift of this system. This is 500 millibar geopotential height, which is in the mid levels of the troposphere, and you also have MSLP, so you also have the surface reflection here showing, and that diffluence to the east of this upper level low. You kind of get a little bit of diffluence aloft with the upper level flow steering to the east here over that Bermuda high that's intensifying and sliding to the south of the system. And you also get that northwesterly tropospheric flow, and kind of the little pocket there of weaker wind shear is allowing this system to reach peak intensity. The National Hurricane Center has it reaching 85 miles an hour by late tonight, by tomorrow morning. By this time, you're likely going to start getting hurricane force conditions here, definitely funneling up Long Island Sound by late night tonight, especially by Sunday morning. By tomorrow morning, you really start getting that stronger flow as well there, ripping up Long Island Sound. Big storm surge happening already by tomorrow morning. The worst of the surge is going to happen during those high tide cycles, and it definitely weakens on approach to Long Island here, or to Rhode Island as well. Probably going to be a high-end tropical storm with devastating storm surge coming in there right on the eastern side of that system. So a slightly weaker upper level low over the eastern Appalachians is going to have less of a shift off to the northwest, slightly eastern track. So the 12Z GFS is definitely showing just a slightly eastern track now over the eastern tip of Long Island and into New England here with a slightly weaker upper level low. And then look at that Bermuda high slide into the south of it. Upper level low weakens a bit by Sunday night, and then it heads into interior New England, sliding to the east-northeast, bringing that flash flood threat along with it, maximizing over the Hunter Mountain area into the Berkshires of western Massachusetts and the hills of Connecticut as well, and then eventually up into central Vermont and New Hampshire. Could get some flooding conditions additionally from this system. So there's your live briefing on Henri. Thank you everybody for joining me for this weather report. There's the official National Hurricane Center track showing Henri very close to Category 1 intensity over eastern Long Island. It's possible we could see a shift further east with this system, especially given the latest GFS as well. And here are those water temperatures showing the northern wall of the Gulf Stream. This is the only negative factor that's going to prevent this from being an even higher end hurricane, because it's not hauling ass over that cooler water below 28 degrees C. And Henri's not even going to realize that it's over that cooler water. But since it's not really ripping at like 20 miles an hour, it is going to weaken slightly. Could even be a high-end tropical storm as it comes in there to Rhode Island. So thank you everybody for joining me for this weather report. I'm going to keep slinging these live updates. I might be storm chasing live tomorrow as well over south central Nebraska. Never stop chasing or briefing.